Hey, welcome to the Shifter Studio. I am your host, Coach Connie. I assist parents who are struggling with stress and family discord and help support them in their shift back to parental peace. This evening, we are going to be delving into part three of a 10-part series around concerns and issues that parents have identified in their journey of parenting. Day one, we spoke about bullying, we spoke about peer pressure and fitting in. Day two, we spoke about health and wellness. Today, day three, we will be talking about technology and screen time. A blessing or a curse? Or is it both? We'll have that conversation. I do want to ask you a favor. If there is anything that you hear that resonates with you, makes you think, gets on your nerves, makes you angry, please subscribe, like, and share. We appreciate you. Now, technology and screen time. Definitely something that needs boundary set when we're speaking about young people. But is it all bad? No, nothing is all bad. Let's take a look at pros and cons. We'll start with some pros. Well, the one obvious pro, the World Wide Web, the internet, fancy internets, however you guys like to refer to our internet system, it opens up the world for our children. Uh, they can learn so many things, learn a new language, learn how to play a sport, learn how to program a certain aspect of their computer. It's just a lot of information out there for our young people, a lot of positive information for young people to, learn at their fingertips. Definitely more information than when I was a young person. Well, when I was a young person, I don't even know if I should be saying this, but when I was a young person, there were no personal computers. So our young people definitely have that advantage. The world is opened up to them. So many free libraries, so many things that they have at their fingertips for learning. Also, could be a place where individuals who are members of oftentimes marginalized groups, oftentimes they find camaraderie and solidarity in online groups. So sometimes the online world can provide a bit of cohesiveness for young people, a sense of belonging, so to speak. And the third thing I'm going to say, take it with a grain of salt. But there are tons and tons and tons of advice blogs, vlogs, and all the like on the internet. And again, as I said, of course, we would caution people to take the advice you find there with a grain of salt, but it does exist. So there are some positives to getting your kick on the internet. However, to be fair and to be honest, the cons of engaging in technology and screen time excessively kind of outweigh the pros. With anything, moderation is key. So parents, we already know, and you notice that's going to come back up again when we get to the final portion of our conversation, when we're talking about what can we do as parents to support our children as they are navigating their time on technology. Before we get there, we're going to take a look at some cons. Studies have shown that young people who spend excessive time on technology, on the internet, on the screen, they are oftentimes at a higher risk of developing depression. Why? Because young people will get on these laptops and cellular phones and watches and all of the other items that carry internet service, and they will compare themselves to what they see. Now, most adults understand. Well, I shouldn't even say that because there may be some adults that do not. But when we see content on social media, when we go on to Facebook or Instagram, etc., this data is curated, meaning it's made, it's created. So we are seeing snippets of someone's life, someone's interests, but it's created by that person. So they get to own their creation. They get to make it look how they want it to look. It's not always reality. Well, a young person may not understand that, and they may get on social media and look and see, oh, well, this person who's my age, they have so much more than I do. This person has a cool family, lives in a mansion, drives a fancy car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they may think about their life where they may be in the midst of just surviving. And that can make them feel depressed. So, young people have research has also showed us that young people also tend to be a little bit more anxious when they spend excessive time on social media. Let's unpack the word excessive. Excessive is a term that's relative. 1 hour of being on Facebook could be excessive for me, whereas 3 hours could be excessive for the next person. Excessive is a relative term, but what we will talk about later on are parental boundaries. Those should be non negotiable. Excessive is relative, parental boundaries should be non negotiable. Now, speaking about the physiological impact of excessive technology and screen time, physiological meaning having to do with the body. So, if you are always on your screen, whether it be your phone or laptop, you are not getting adequate sleep in most instances. So, a lot of young people come to school very sleepy. Why? Because they stayed up all night talking to their friends on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, et cetera, and so on, and they didn't get proper sleep. Also, being on the internet, whether it's cell phone or laptop, also exposes our young people to cyberbullying. We know what cyberbullying is. It's basically the same type of bullying that happens in real time, except for it's online, and sometimes can be even more pervasive and more harmful than the bullying that a young person might experience on the schoolyard. Being on social media can also attribute to young people developing negative self-images because the pictures that you see on social media, uh, what's that term that folks use? Angles, 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 right? So folks know how to angle themselves to get the best picture. There are filters, etc. And so if you are viewing a picture from someone's social media page and they've ran it through the filters and they're posed just so, and you think about what you look like when you look in the mirror with your natural self, and they are putting a picture up with its altered self, and it may, if you don't understand the concept of filters and angles and etc., it may make you feel bad about yourself. So, negative self image can sometimes come from time spent on technology or social media. Okay? So, now we've spoken about the physiological negative aspects, we've talked about the psychological negative aspects. So now that we've named them, remember, we don't just come together to name the issues. We want to develop some strategies, some tips, some solutions. Okay? Now that we know that, the internet has its positives and its negatives, and we understand the physiological and the psychological damage that excessive screen time can lead to for young people, What are we going to do? How are we going to get these children to put their phones down? How are we going to get the child to put the phone down at the dining room table? Okay, the slide before this one demonstrated kids on their phones in the cafeteria. One young lady had the phone on at school. Right. Yeah. This access to technology and social media, in most instances, folks are on their laptops and their cell phones because they're on social media. This constant ingestion of social media and the internet world is not good for a young person's psyche. So what do we as parents, what can we do? At my school, we use a tool called Go Guardian in the school so that we put Go Guardian on the teacher's laptop, and then it goes on. Um, was web based, so it goes on all of the scholars' Chromebooks, and so we can see if a scholar gets on a site, if they're supposed to be working on iReady and you look down and they're on a site trying to play a video game, it comes right up on our screen, on our computer, and we just shut the computer down. No argument. And they know when they're busted and they have nothing to say. So we don't all have access to Go Guardian in our households. However, what we do have is mama, daddy, auntie, adult rules, norms, and boundaries. Okay? I know this is post COVID. I know this is 2024, but there are some aspects of parenting that are just as necessary today as they were yesterday. Being an engaged parent is one of those things. And being engaged when it comes to your child or children and how they interact with social media and technology and the internet, definitely on us to be engaged to monitor. We have to set boundaries and limits. Boundaries and limits. It's not to say that we should never, ever, 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 ever allow our children to go on social media. You would probably be setting yourself up for a big disappointment if you went that route, because even if a scholar were to borrow somebody else's phone or laptop, oh, I can't use this in the house, but let me see your phone, log out so I can log in so I can see, right? See how easy that is? So instead of setting up a situation where you will be forcing your young person to lie, you would be forcing your young person to feel bad. Instead of all that, let's just set up some boundaries and limits so that they learn how to use the social media, but they understand they don't have all day with it, so they have to budget their time. Again, when I was growing up, it was not when I was growing up. When Frick and Frack were growing up, the thing then was not necessarily social media. It was more video games, which is also a form of technology. So if you allowed Frick and Frack at the time when they were like 4 and 5, yes, 4 and 5, I had I had gamer children. Yes, they would play Tom and Jerry and Sesame Street and all of the games on the video. They would play them all day long if we let them. If we let them, which we did not. Okay, so once Frick and Frack entered elementary school, boundaries that were set while they were toddlers definitely carried over and reinforced when they were in kindergarten and first grade and second grade, etc. But once we set them at that age, we never had to revisit them again. Our rule in our household was always no video games from Sunday night after dinner until Friday after you finish your homework. That was our boundary. No video games from Sunday after dinner up until Friday after you finish your homework. Once you finish your homework on Friday, you can have latitude in terms of how you spend your time. If you want to spend your time playing video games and you don't have anything else to do, I'm fine with it. As the kids say, I'm Gucci with it. Why? Because you have finished your responsibilities and you have not been on your game all week. So that's the boundary we set. All households are different. Some households may say you can only play for 30 minutes a day. Some households would say you can only play for an hour a day. What I would not recommend is a household that says, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care how long you play the games because it's just playing game. You could be out in the street doing X, Y, and Z. So if you want to play your game, play your game. I get the sentiment behind that, but that type of thinking is still encouraging a young person to spend an inordinate amount of time on their laptops and cell phones. So, confessional moment here. I do have two young men, my sons, who have graduated college, and they spend an inordinate amount of time on their computers. There's no way that I'm setting a boundary for someone in their age group. However, they completed their obligation and their responsibility by graduating from college. So they were able to navigate how you're using your study time versus how are you using your game, your electronics, your video time. And so that's the second thing. Along with boundaries and limits, we have to talk to our children about time management. Yes, if you're going to play the games, if you're going to go surf the web, be on the internet, TikToks, whatever, time management. That means you have a conversation with your child. Are you on a team? Do you have anything sports going on this weekend? We have church on Sunday. We're doing this as a family on Saturday. This leaves you a couple of hours this evening. You'll have a couple of hours on Saturday. You may have a couple of hours on Sunday. And that may be too much for some people, but I'm just structuring it the way it was structured with us. Their playing games didn't stop our lives. They never said, I'm not going anywhere. I play this game. We didn't, it wasn't that type of party. So we didn't have to worry about that type of response. So again, I'm just saying it's important to set time management in place when it comes to technology and social media. Passwords. To me, this is akin to maybe knocking on my child's door. They don't answer. I'm opening the door. So we know that, yes, that's old school parenting. And some folks may see it as, that might not be the best way to go. But much like you have that internal dialogue or maybe a dialogue with friends around how you access the goings on of your teenager, someone may have the idea that me having my child's passwords is invasive and it's going into their private is it's disrupting their privacy. I can see your point. I can see your point. However, with social media being as crazy as it is, I'm not going to be mad at you, parent, if you have the passwords to the social media platforms, to the cell phones, right? So, yeah. Um, some things that I say may not be progressive because this is about being transparent and authentic. So I come humbly before anyone and say what I always say. I am a mixture. I am a hybrid of old school and new school. There are some things old school that I would never do to my children. There are some things new school that I would never do with my children. So, flaws and benefits both today and yesterday. But ultimately, please remember it's about your engagement with your child that's going to keep them safe from all the things cyber. Thank you for joining us for part 3. we'll have part 4 tomorrow. I'm going to keep you in suspense. I'm not going to tell you what part 4 is, but just know it's going to be interesting. Again, if anything that I've shared with you resonates, hits your soul, makes you shake, angers you, gets on your nerves, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much.